All right. So based on what we talked about last night, I think this meeting is trying to set the direction for the 23rd meeting for these guys so they can know what they got to do and present to the board, rather than trying to guess what we want to give them some direction. I find giving people direction in their job, in my everyday life, in my job, and wherever, giving them direction on how to move forward is helpful, and it's supposed to be efficient. So that's why, so I think let's kind of do that in this meeting and see what we can come up with. And so these guys got a month to present to the workshop. So I think we'll start with Jason's comments last night. I think he made some good points regarding being more specific on that list that you have up there. More so the last 7, the running total of all the some things just say casing, like is an example, which I agree with, and that was some of the comments we heard last year. But I think at this point we need to figure out what the absolute needs are, which I think they're obvious. There's no surprise there. Roofs, facade, HVAC systems, self-range, and then maybe you have 3 options as talked about. I don't know. You guys, people can weigh in on that, but keep in mind what we heard from the town consistently was 15 million. I don't agree that's enough, but that's what we heard. And whether it was at the deliberative, various meetings, that was the number that they thought was acceptable to get behind. And it's funny, when you talk about numbers, nobody talks about actually what they want to pay for. It's just, this is what we're willing to give you, but it's kind of weird. But, so, that's kind of the direction. I don't think 15 is enough, clearly, because South Range is going to be around. You're going to have almost $10 million in South Range alone.
Yeah, Jason and I addressed this a little bit last night, similarly, that like 15 million is going to barely put a dent in this stuff. I think you guys would agree, you could put $15 million into these buildings tomorrow and you wouldn't even notice.
So, David, where are you getting the 15 million number from, that's what everybody
So I was
said?
at the deliberative, and
Yeah.
Lynn Perkins stood up to try to get the number down to 14. I said 14 million was the actual number. Lynn Perkins stood up. I've heard it from Jim McEachran 1,000 times at the legislative meeting last year. So when you say I don't listen at the legislative meeting, or I didn't bring, not you, I'm saying in general, when I was said that these things were said over time.
Okay.
At different various points, not just in a legislative meeting, but, and McEachran was one, a lot of the town councils.
Okay, so I
I mean,
guess,
the people in the community not as close to the actual number. It's the people that supposedly know the community and know that they'll stand behind. That's the number that was given to us.
so when I look at our number last year for the warrant article for capital improvements, we had almost 37 million.
Yeah.
And I think we had a good amount of voters supporting that. So I think we can get our number up, we just need to do a better job communicating what it's for. I think our community definitely understands the need in investing in our schools.
Mhm.
And I think it was mentioned last night, now we don't have the new school taking away the attention that this needs.
Yeah.
So I think that if we do this right, I do believe that our town will be behind us.
That's fine. I don't disagree with you. Yeah. I think
It's important to
Jason.
remember when you hear people say 15 million, people have their own agendas and, there are other things that.
That's why I didn't go. That's why we didn't go with it. We knew the actual need, and we went the way we did. But at the same time, that doesn't always get you where you need to be in it too. So.
So, can we get off a number just for a second and talk about, one of the things that I also heard was you're asking for too much over too long.
Sure.
So is there a means of, and I know it's one of the things that we're afraid of, is then you have to come back every year. Each year, we gotta ask for more, now we need this much, and this is what this for. But I'm just wanna throw that on the table so we can at least discuss it. I know I'm not the only one that heard that. and I don't know how strong that is, you hear more from legislators and town council and so forth. But I know that happened at the deliberative session. I think it
That's
was,
why the three tranche system was supposed to negate that concern or worry.
right, but I don't
Not
think they
negate,
understood
It's
it.
supposed to alleviate.
But
is the
maybe
right
they
word.
didn't understand that.
I guess, I mean, I couldn't be more clear.
Yeah, I mean, the concern always is, right, is that if we say we do 15 million next year and that, like we've said, barely puts a dent in anything. Just the three major projects at South Range are like $8 million right off the top.
Right.
So, I mean, then you run the risk. Are we gonna be coming back for another bond before this one is even paid off?
Right, I heard that last night.
What's the
as well.
appetite
Well, that's
to be
inevitable.
for that? Yeah,
That's
I mean,
inevitable. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
You can't get around that unless you do a short-term
I
bond.
mean, I think that, we came very close with the capital improvement bond last year, and I mean, I think it's more important to put something forward that is going to be comprehensive. Like if $15 million is gonna leave, I don't know, 75% of the projects that we need to complete unfunded, and you're just kicking the can down the road again.
Agreed. I think what's even more important, what you're saying, Michael, which is very important, is we need a 7-0 vote at the board level to support it, whatever we come up with. That's the most important avenue that we have, that we need to have, is a 7-0 vote that we all can agree on a path forward. If we don't have that, I think it's an uphill battle to get anything passed.
If we're working against each other on the board itself, we're not gonna get the town to agree to anything.
So,
I would like to think that this is an issue that we could get. I think everybody understands that we need, whether you wanted a new building, whether you didn't, whether you wanted to close, you didn't, everybody knows we have to, I'd like to think school board wise, knows we have to fix the buildings. If we're gonna keep them open and keep them running and keep them safe, we need to fix them. So I would like to think that, maybe July 23rd, sitting down as a whole group and coming to terms with what the group feels as a whole we want to move forward, that we could do that. I'm optimistic about that.
yep, agreed.
And advertising, advertising is the wrong word, an informational campaign to voters and members of the community about what all these things are and why they're so necessary. You can do that, right? I mean, I know a lot of it will be stuff that Jeremy, Rob, and the team have already said multiple times out loud in meetings, but we just have to get used to the fact that no matter how many times we say it, people will say, why are we just hearing about this? Why aren't you talking about it? So we just need to get past that and not let it bother us and just say, oh, yeah, you're right, we should talk about it more.
And I think what I hear you guys saying is be much more specific about that amount of money that we're going to be asking for.
Yeah.
Exactly what it's going to do.
Can you scroll down to
What do you want to look at?
the summary stuff?
And it's important that the town thinks that they can trust us, because last year we absolutely did not have that. So
Yep.
how are we correcting that? If, we're asking for this money for improvements, how are we gonna improve that relationship with the community and show them we're listening?
I don't know, you tell me. How do we do that?
Well, I tried for the last year and a half to tell you how to listen, but you didn't, so I
And we
don't.
gave you good reasons why we didn't. They were perfectly good reasons. And you had no alternative plan to tell us how to go forward. You can't expect to convince people on a plan when you have nothing to offer. You had nothing. All right, no, sorry. Scroll up.
What do you want?
Go to one of the schools. Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go to phase 1. My bad.
Oh, phase one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, I think the point is well taken by Katie, Jason, being more specific.
Just looking at this, casework throughout, I think probably there are a lot of people that don't even know what the word casework is. And, we probably need to be more specific about what parts of the building and classroom, which classroom.
We've defined that in meetings.
Yeah, I know.
But take some pictures and
We
We've
have,
had this list,
but,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But almost having something like this with a glossary even.
Yeah, or just like for each of these items, just a little couple of sentences of what, each thing is. Because, yeah, I mean,
I'll take care of that.
So taking
No,
this
CPG
and
may take care of
expand it to have more
yeah,
of
just more
a
detail.
specific definition of what
Yeah.
casework is, for instance.
And
I
again,
definitely
like,
don't
I know
think
we
people-
all know what we're talking about here, but like, we need the people who are gonna be voting on this.
Oh, yeah, and it's like one of those things where it started 4 years ago when we did the master plan and we had the pictures.
Yeah,
And then it just kind of, over time, has been drilled down to this list.
Yeah.
So
So we have all those pictures and stuff.
the pictures are on the master plan, yeah.
And do you still feel good about this list? Like, has anything changed when you look at this as far as priorities? Is there anything, when you look through phase 1, 2, and 3, is there anything that you think has moved in priority?
Not really, because like we had a roofing assessment done, that kind of hasn't changed. As time goes on, say like the roofs that had a certain level are getting worse. So that just kind of goes without saying, but yep, excuse me. We haven't done much on this list since we've had it done. We did cross out some of the things that we had as you go to the particular school.
They're removed from this list too?
They're not removed, we just put a strike through on it.
Yeah.
Just to show that
So this is good.
it was there.
I mean, you guys just did this list last fall, so it's not, this particular.
Yeah, it's the information we've had, and we've developed different lists over time. This is the
This
latest.
particular document.
Yeah, and we were working on this morning, so I don't know, we didn't have real time to check the last summary page to make sure that those numbers were accurate according to what these were. Like, so the West Running Brook one on the phase 1, I just changed it to 2.9 because that's what Gail had given us for the granite last month or whatever they said it was, so. And again, these are order of magnitude costs. We did add, we have the construction management costs, soft costs, the contingencies. There's also like a 10%, 7 to 10% increase over time. Escalation, so, these numbers are subject to change, but it gives us an idea of what we're looking at anyways.
Yeah, so, we will have to go after bid, projects, so like, these are not real quotes.
Right.
And, they're estimates, and also too, like
And we
we
found that
said,
this,
these are things that are pulled out of, the Valley report and all that, and, a lot of the things that were on that list that we have dug deeper into, we found that they're way worse.
they change a bit, right, that's why they're rough order of magnitude numbers. We did the fire alarm at East Erie. It was probably 20 to 30 grand more than what we thought it was gonna be. But those numbers we had from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, same thing with the sprinkler system, that was like hundreds of thousands of dollars more than we thought it was going to be. So, what we ended, we're making the proper repairs, but we were hoping to get the pie in the sky at the time. So,
The one I always go back to is, the veneers, at South Range, and, Gail did the study on the, veneer on the 2000 building in Dairy Village. The LaValley report was, if you only, you replace some bricks, you should look into this more. And if you look into it more, rather than $30,000 to replace some bricks,
it was
it was
$500,000.
multi-million dollars to replace the entire wall.
And a lot of what we've updated on this too is as we've done similar projects like East Aries fire alarm, we've been able to get a more accurate number for the other buildings as well. Because I know we were kind of low to begin with, or at least with the Jobin report, kind of low on the fire alarm system replacement, and then we get a better idea by square footage, that sort of deal. So as we do projects at each building, we're able to get an idea of how much, well, get a closer idea of how much each will cost for the remaining.
So I think just a couple of comments I have is related to last night and one personal comment. So I think one of the big things is when you have your, can you scroll up a little bit?
What do you want?
The other way, sorry. Do it down, I'm sorry. Keep going.
All the way to the bottom?
Yeah, please, right here. So those contract management costs, soft cost contingencies, we gotta lock those down and make sure we have a solid explanation what those are and what they mean. Cause, I mean, 25%, I mean, it seems to be 40%. So that's just one, because we've got a few people asking about that and questioning the validity of those numbers. And that's not your numbers, these are numbers that were given to us but we just need to have a
By an
solid.
expert in the field.
Yeah, but fair enough, but we need to be prepared to articulate that when people ask, because I'm not comfortable doing it. I can't always just say, well, the expert told us. I need to understand the rationale. And the other thing I would say is, just go back up to phase one. To the point of more detail, I think what would help is, and I'm not saying you have, like, install a generator, maybe on the right-hand side or someplace, put current generator is X years old, 25 years old, and it's in this condition. I'm not saying you have to be like super like detailed, but some sort of little description to let people know.
Like what the need is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's easy to do
I
because
figured
it's all
you
in
have
the
a-
master plan.
Exactly.
Cut and paste.
Correct. I think that's helpful. Like casing, I don't even know what casing is. If I look, I mean,
I just looked up what a trom wall is.
yeah, I know.
Now
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. Like,
No idea what a trauma wall is.
yeah. So
That's the big wall at East Area that's supposed
Yeah.
to correct.
that's not really. I know because
Sunlight
Yeah.
and
So-
provide heat. Yes.
Yeah,
And
technically it's.
I had a thought about
It
the dollar figures.
Does it ever work?
We don't know. To be honest, I had to look it up too when I started here. So,
If they called it a solar
So,
wall, I might have a
If
little
we've never
better
used it, why
idea.
are we spending $20,000 on it? What's its benefit?
right. That's a good point.
it's not that we're not using it, it's a system within the wall that was designed to save energy. So,
Is it worth the $20,000 investment?
I don't know, we don't know if it's working, we're not sure. It's, I don't know, I guess that's why we sit in this room is to
Yeah,
determine as a
fair
group, like, what are the priorities?
I thought the idea was to remove the thing. That was what the $20,000 was to remove.
Well, what does it say? Investigate the wall? So we're spending $20,000. What does that mean?
I think we don't know if it's working, if it's not working, why it's not working.
I'll look up with why we don't know.
And maybe if it could be fixed, maybe it would save a whole lot of energy and reduce costs.
And be worth that investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was from LaValley's initial assessment, and they, again, couldn't figure out whether it was actually still tied into the system or tied into the building systems. They didn't dig that deep, and pretty much the 20,000 was to get somebody to come out and do further investigation to see whether the wall itself was still functioning, if it had been bypassed sometime years ago, something of that
Like a
nature.
catalytic converter, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Like, we don't know if back in the 90s if somebody went through and bypassed the piping to it, and now it's just kind of a big wall full of nothingness that causes the building to just be hot in that section during summer days when it gets hit with sunlight, of course. And yeah, that building does typically run hot on the front there, potentially due to that wall.
So, getting to Katie's point about trust and all that, I'm wondering if where it says amount, it should say either estimated amount or estimated costs, because some people are gonna look at none of the figures are ever 100,000, 200,000, 750. So I understand that these are estimates, but does everybody understand it? You didn't get a price that said the casework is gonna be $100,000. That's a ballpark figure. So I'm wondering if we should say, at least use the word estimate or something.
Yeah.
Because when I look at these numbers, I go, no, it should be $126,419.27 if we had an actual price, which I know we don't. So just something as simple as estimated amount or estimated cost.
Yeah, I think we can do a better job of communicating that. So I mean, that's something we did talk about a lot a year ago, because again, there was talk of, just going for $36 million.
Right.
There are people that, everyone has their own interests, and they want to make sure X amount of money goes to this school and X amount of money goes to that school. So, one thing that we heard at the time was like, oh, what's the guarantee that, the amount of money on there that's dedicated to Grinnell is
Yeah,
going to
I
go to
remember that.
Grinnell.
Yep.
And, the reasoning why, we weren't locking in X dollars at X school is because we don't actually know how much any of these things are gonna cost.
Right.
Like one project at, one school might come in cheaper than we're saying, one project might come in more expensive. you know, you just don't know until you actually go out to bid on all these things.
Yep. Yeah, so I think, I like showing it in phases. I think that's a good way of breaking it out. Keeping this model with the changes we all just talked about, I think is a good way to start. To your point on the allocation, the lawyer actually advised us against putting in by school how much money.
Yeah, and I think
we didn't
that
make that
was-
decision
yeah, that
arbitrarily.
was- And I think that was the
Yeah.
reasoning, was
Yeah.
that, you know, you don't,
It's not a good idea,
Yeah.
Joe, she said.
Or Joe, are you taking notes? Thank you.
But,
Sorry.
so, I think all good suggestions. I think we got good basis for the 23rd. And then after the 23rd, I mean, then we gotta contract Joven again to get us those updated numbers. And like, once again, they're still only estimates. At least they're today's estimates.
they're gonna be, current estimates from a professional who does this.
I mean, do we, for safety, for presentation purposes on the 23rd, do we add an inflationary factor to these numbers since they're a year old? Just for the point of discussion at that meeting? I don't know, that's probably, you gotta do something, because these are a year old. And then we know that, you know,
The more than a year old.
yeah,
Yeah,
And the
I mean,
work's not
numbers from
gonna-
Governor
Some of them
Jones,
we
2
made
years.
this, yeah.
right,
And none of the work can happen until after March.
right.
So
I mean,
it's
even that
almost-
2.9 number is not gonna be 2.9 anymore, even though we got a quote on that, right? That's the actual
Yeah, a
quote.
few months ago.
Yeah, so even that number will probably change by the time it's time to go. I don't know, you guys think about it. I mean, it's something that probably is a good way to be conservative, I guess. Not even conservative, just trying to keep up with the,
You know, the original study from Joven at this point is from December 2022. You know, that's gonna be very old by the time this bond is actually going to a vote.
because these are Joven numbers, right, from 22, I believe?
Yeah, is that where you guys are drawing?
These are Joven's numbers from 22? December.
Jobin's, LaValle's,
Okay.
and any other could be.
So Joven's numbers are more, I would say, in a better place, because he actually looked at what was needed in the budget. The Valley's is more,
Yeah,
High
more
level.
high level, and
Yeah.
those are older too.
exactly. So obviously that'll be the next, obviously you can't have that after the 23rd, but when we do finalize the bond, we'll have them for that anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, what I'd like to see is, obviously, this is comprehensive, right? I mean, this is everything that you guys would like to complete.
Yes.
Like, but I think that we need to see, right, is comes out now to 40, whatever million you had at the bottom, is just like, pare this down. If you guys had 30 million, which projects would you complete? If you had 15 million, which projects would you complete? Just so we can show, like, you know, if we only did a $15 million bond, this is all we'd be able to do.
I think actually, that's probably already set up that way, right? Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3, except you may have to refine it.
Well, I mean, sort of.
We'd have to refine it, but I also
Phase 1 says
would
here
like it
almost
to be
19.
a group decision as far as, like, we get the report
19.
from Jobin, we get the report from LaValle, and they say, you know, ceilings throughout, they say
Right.
casework throughout. Like, if you go to East Area, the casework is all, it's rusty, it's just nasty. Is it working? Yes, but it's disgusting, it needs to be replaced. So it's like, as a group, do we say, is that something we wanna do? It's not just, you know, Rob and I saying we feel like this
Yeah,
should be
sure.
done. Because there are things that we need to do to keep the buildings habitable, so we have to do roofs. That's obviously a priority. If we're keeping South Range, that needs that $1 million worth of work just to keep us in it. You know, so that puts that casework way back.
Mm-hmm,
You know, the generators, we don't have any generators
right.
worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was something that we ran into a problem with a generator last weekend, not having a generator with the fire alarm system. South Range will need a fire alarm replacement in the near future, so
Yeah.
those are things, like, if we're gonna bare bones, there are things that we need to have to keep the buildings open and safe over time. And the casework's not one of them.
Right.
But that was part of the report, saying, you know, they put that as as a 1, the condition was so poor.
Right, right.
But it doesn't mean that it's unsafe.
That's a good point.
So,
Is that something we can go through right now and you, not to like tie us to it, but just kind of make some notes now on these items, like this could get moved, this could, you know, wherever you think it should land now, and we could have this discussion, or is now the time for that? Is
yeah.
the 23rd the time
I
for that?
guess so, I mean, or I could make a list and share it with this group and, you know, with taking into consideration, like, the thoughts I just told you, you know.
Are you thinking
Maybe
like
you
two
could drill it down,
Yeah, two categories, like absolute must-haves in order to
Yeah,
continue
here's
to
the
have
list
occupancy.
according to Jobin and, you know, what are the repercussions if we don't do these specific things like casework? We'll be okay if we didn't do casework, but it does need to be replaced. If it was your house, you'd be like, get that out, it's disgusting. The windows, you know, they're older windows, installed generator, we've never had generators before, you know, it would benefit every portion of what we do, not just we've had this conversation too, but not just having power when we lose power, if the kids are there, but we lose motors, we lost the sprinkler system last weekend, so we had guys here all weekend for that reason, so there is a cost benefit to having the generators, and it just makes sense. Paving at Grinnell, that's to the point now we can't even maintain the paving. We can't do crack sealing, we can't do anything because the paving is just beyond any sort of repair or maintenance. The gym ceiling replacement, it's not falling, you know, so, yeah, I can make a list and I can kind of give a little description of my opinion after that, according to what we have here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that would be really helpful.
And I think that would be, like, my list would be to just keep moving forward, to
Okay.
keep the buildings open. It would not dress up the building, it would not,
Well, I think that we should show that too. I think that we should look at this like, okay, this is what we need to stay in these buildings, but then let's also look at a list of other things that should have. I mean, our students and teachers should have nice schools.
that's why it's on the list.
Right.
And this would be exactly like what Michael said earlier, where that first $15 million is just to make everything habitable. I mean, the casework, yes, it works, nice to have sort of thing, but yeah, the same idea.
Stupid question. I don't know what casework is, but quite frankly, I think of it as molding, but,
Casework and
built-in
millwork.
you're talking like you said cabinets and stuff?
Yep,
Cabinet
pretty much.
trays and
Okay,
stuff, right?
got it.
So at East Erie, it's East Erie, Grinnell, that sort of thing. It's metal. A lot of it's rusted, rotten, that sort of thing. We have could use different new sink basins, faucets, hardware, all that.
It's just
sort of
all
thing.
original to the building, not just built in 85 or
Yeah.
86.
Yeah.
I mean,
Understood.
that's old for cabinets.
So that's what you just described, the perfect description of what we would want to, I think is helpful to see, right? Caseworkers rotted, whatever, rusty and whatever. That's exactly like that'd be very helpful. And I think on the 23rd, it kind of gives everyone on the board an idea of what is the priority and where should we go with it. Like, to Kay's point, I want to see more than bare minimum as well. I want to see some improvement aesthetically, whatever the word is. But obviously, the stuff that has to get done, obviously, it takes priority. So I think that would be very helpful, like, and especially for the community to see that this is why we're doing, this is why the recommendation is the way it is, because of this. It is probably the best way to educate beyond distribution.
We're gonna put this online, of course,
Yeah.
on the website. So,
So here's the other thing, to the point of with the community is, we didn't do a great job. We kind of hit pockets of groups as best we could, but, we have our mainstays who see everything all the time, but we need to get to the people who don't see everything at all.
yeah, I was wondering, and I'm not looking for this to be a cumbersome process, but for instance, East Erie, casework throughout. There's a definition there of what that is all about, and maybe there's a link of, you take one picture of some rusted old casework, so that if I'm on the website and I go here, I see a little definition and I click the word casework and I see this
Yeah,
picture.
you could do that in this document, right? You just put
I
a link
can do
and it goes
that.
right
I
to a
can do
picture.
everything.
Right.
Right.
Page where you have some
Yeah.
pictures of each thing.
Yeah, we can do that.
The banding, you know, you go to where you can see the
Shifting.
shifting. Thank you. Take a picture of that so that at least there's
But to David's point, we can do all that, but if people don't go to that site
Well,
and
yeah.
look
Yeah,
at that,
yeah.
It's helpful that people who do go to the site. I think we need a plan, and like I said, we hit pockets of people the best we could, but clearly it wasn't enough of the older population that votes, everyone who votes. You know, that's the tough part. I don't know the answer to that right now.
well, one of the things that we could do with our social media campaign is take at least a dozen of these things. And when we're talking about this, whatever warrant article this is, have one of these things associated with it. And every week, twice a week, have different things associated with it. This was one of the projects to this bill. This is
Mhm.
another project to this warrant article.
That's a good point too.
I mean, so that by the time you get through with 2 months of that, you've done 10, 12 different items out there that are out on social media. Here's another thing that needs to be done. Here's another thing that needs to be done. Not just one time everything,
Yeah.
but target different things.
It's a good point. I think the struggle that we have is how do we get the people beyond social media? That's the struggle I have. I don't know the answer. I mean, I do know the answer is we don't all have the time to go sit there and knock on doors and do that. We tried to, like I said, we hit groups of people as best we could, and some of the groups, you know, have a wide net of people they talk to and stuff. That clearly wasn't enough, and that's not a problem for today. I just
No, so think about it.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things that you did do last year, do them again
yeah,
and build on it.
right. Yeah, no,
Because
you're right.
you definitely did go out and spread awareness. Just
Yeah, it's just it was tough.
build on that.
Yeah. No, I think this is good. I think this is a solid plan for the 23rd. And, you know, I think, you know, the number's gonna be the number. We just gotta prioritize and figure it out. And I think, yeah. And I'll be frank, like, I don't want to be at 36 million where we were last year, but if that's what you tell us it is and we can support it, then fine, so be it, that's fine. I think I want to be the happy medium place that we get a lot done and people can be happy supporting it and try to find that sweet spot. Hopefully we can do that in a way that makes sense.
And do it and execute it well and gain their trust. And then as we need to move forward from there, do more projects, they'll see what a great job we did and
Right,
continue to get that support.
agreed, yeah.
So Jeremy, you have a clear direction for what they want from you? Do you,
I think so.
okay. So is Jeremy gonna send that stuff to just the members of the committee so that you all are, have a chance to take a look at that, ask questions prior to the 23rd? And then is there gonna be a public presentation at that meeting that really,
You guys determine that, how
Walk
you feel
through
fit,
Okay.
see fit. Whatever you guys see fit to show how you want. So if I think, yeah, send it to the committee, have us get a once over on it, and then,
Yeah, I think at that meeting, we probably want to walk through, you know, everything.
is this partially for the board, which I recognize probably already knows most of this stuff or should know all this stuff because it's already in all the reports that have been presented, but it's also like we're presenting for any audience that might be tuned in, that might be engaged in this.
Yeah, this is kind of the beginning of the campaign to get something passed
Exactly.
in March.
Right. So I agree. I think a walkthrough of how we've categorized these must-haves, nice to have.
so I guess the question is, do we want to add a inflationary factor on this, 5%, 6%? I mean, we probably should. Unless the all figures right now aren't the highest priority, but I think we should, I should say.
I think that we should
Yeah,
include that.
okay.
I do.
So Jeremy, you want to add?
I think that it's better to show people the real costs
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
like you all said, this information's 2 years old.
Yeah. Jeremy, you want to do 6% addition on these numbers? Just have Jane run them at 6%? If she probably has a spreadsheet that can probably run the right. Cool. Just do me a favor, email Jobin and just get his blessing on those 3 soft project, and I forget the third one. Just get his blessing that those numbers make sense one last time.
Construction management,
Yeah.
soft costs and contingency.
Because those are big numbers, I just want to make sure that he's comfortable with those. And have him give a brief overview on why those numbers are where they're at, if you don't mind. Just so we have it for our own internal knowledge.
Those are the percentages he used on the reports he did.
He did, but it was just,
So,
I'm not comfortable with them. No, my knowledge base on those numbers, I just want to have a comfortability of what
And
those
there
numbers
were
mean.
people that said they should be less.
Right.
Remember
That's-
that, so we
yeah.
need to have someone like him saying,
This is
this
why we're
is
doing what
what
we're
the
doing it.
industry standard is, and this is
Which
what
we
it.
did do that.
You
We
did.
consulted with him before.
You did, I know,
And-
just one more time. I think one of the things I'd like him to add is, if it's true, of course, if not, I want to tell him what to add, but some comparison that not all projects are the same. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Like, I think people have a tendency, not in this room, or I think people have a tendency to say their experience level on this project compared to this project, it could be totally different. I could be wrong in saying that, I don't know. But if I am right, it'd be nice to articulate like the differences in why some projects may have less contingencies than others based,
Well, it was as simple as, these are rough numbers, order of magnitude.
yeah,
So those contingency numbers are a little bit higher than if we had a set of drawings that we went,
yeah,
like for the fire station is the example they used. Say that one was only 7%.
yeah, good point.
Well, that's because they had exact plans that they could price everything off of, and just in case they missed something, they added 7%.
Good point. That
This
is, you're
this
right.
is pie in the sky industry standard numbers.
Yeah,
They could change, so
Right.
those are the numbers they would use in this scenario. Not if, if we go and do, we get final pricing for West Running Brook. Those numbers won't exist, it would be a different number.
right,
And it would probably be even less because that's like a finite thing that they're doing.
yeah,
They know what they're up against as opposed to like building a new building or,
yeah,
renovating a whole building. They don't know if they're gonna all of a sudden open up a wall and there's gonna be asbestos everywhere.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Adds 5% to the job.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff, we don't even know what the work that's gonna need to be done to complete what we're asking for is gonna be at this point.
Right, and a good example of that, if anybody wants to go look at Hood at some point, like, once you start taking things down, it's like, we never expected to have a gap in the floor between the wall and the cafeteria that goes down 30 feet.
Really?
Now we have to put a wall there, which before was cabinets that were filled with asbestos.
And the floor
So-
doesn't meet the wall.
Right.
How does that happen?
Good question.
That's how it was built.
That's a good
71,
question.
right?
Yep.
Was
It's hard to figure out why people did things, a certain way 55 years ago.
Right.
We probably all
Ran out of concrete. I don't know.
Well, I think what you find, right, is they probably did whatever was easiest for them to complete the job at the time with no thought into, well, eventually someday, you're gonna have to, redo this.
Right.
Nobody thinks about
I
that.
mean, it's not a structural issue, it's not a safety issue, it was just,
And it's well documented that school construction in that period of time was was not the quality that we have today or the quality that existed in the 30s and the 40s. In the 50s and 60s and 70s, they were putting up schools just like that and doing it fast to get people in, and they were cutting corners. It's
They were built
well
out of the
documented.
cheapest materials.
They did.
I mean, that's why, you said if you're gonna renovate South Range, you'd have nothing left but steel beams.
right.
You tear it all out if you could.
And so looking at South Range, I know that when this was put together, the thought was that it wouldn't be open that long.
Yeah,
If we're thinking about longer term for South Range, are there other projects we should be including?
These would be the most important.
Yeah, but Jeremy, there's only 2 projects there. To Katie's point, we may have to, HVAC now?
No, that's in there, there's 3 in there. We
Oh, it's
incorporated
3?
2 on one line. We
Oh, I'm
just did it
sorry,
this
okay.
morning, yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
That's on phase 1, yeah.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. Perfect.
Do we have access to this document?
Not yet.
What's crazy about the HVAC at, at South Range, I remember from Honeywell at their presentation, is that is the smallest school in the district and it's the most expensive building to complete.
Right. Same with the
Honeywell
roof too,
project.
because the roof has asbestos.
They really loved asbestos way back when, didn't they? Jeez.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
All right.
Isn't it a fire retardant?
It's everything. It's a wonder mineral of the 19th or 20th century.
So maybe I'll just add to this document and then I can share it with you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe make it so you can't edit it. That just gets messy.
Or keep an original.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, just so I know we talked about a lot. So the thought is two kind of ways of looking at it, right? I think you said.
Yeah.
Joe said, and then adding the descriptions of things of why we need it, whatever the reasons are, and adding 6%, and then just getting one last clarification on the project. I agree with what you just said. I'm not saying I don't disagree with you. It makes perfect sense. And then I think, did I miss anything? I think that's everything. Okay.
Overtime, get links.
Oh yeah, that's for
of-
future,
of
yeah.
Pictures.
Yeah. That doesn't have to be for the 31st, but the
Maybe
23rd.
consider that column estimated amount or
Yeah,
estimated
estimated,
costs.
yeah, change it to estimated. I think the point you made is very well taken. That should be a highlight as you kick off the conversation, is that these are not quotes, these are estimates, and that they still need to be, but just so
Which
that's
again, and I know that,
from 2 years.
those of us who have sat in them over the past 4 years in the meetings, that's just kind of how this list progressed, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've gone over the master plan and all the pictures and all the explanations. And then we end up with kind of like a simplified list, which we now have to go back and take that information and present it. If we don't get the money in the next year, we're gonna have to do the same thing, right? We're gonna have
I
to,
think that, yeah,
it's gonna
that's
be a
a
different
reality.
crowd.
Sure.
It's gonna be different peoples? Sorry, no word. People with concerns, and we're going to have to explain it in a different way. So,
Well, I think, I hear you.
and that's fine, I'm not complaining, I'm
No,
just.
I know. I think the thoughts that everyone presented today will hopefully alleviate. I think it makes sense, and hopefully down the road it will make sense to people down the road as well. We'll see. I guess maybe not. I don't know, but
I think the idea of what last year was, with this document is that we were going to create something that was easily consumable, right? We have the LaValley report, which is 1,000 pages, and they did a whole presentation on it. But we can't assume that most people saw that or even aware of it.
Right, it could be new people in town, it could be, you just have to explain it again.
yeah. Okay.
And also the Jobin descriptions of the construction management, soft costs and contingencies.
Yeah. So looking at the calendar here, where are we? So if we have a meeting on the 23rd, is getting the information to the full board by the 17th feasible for the meeting? Is that enough time? Okay.
Do we
I'll
think
get something out to you guys next week to start
Okay.
do we think
doing, and I
we
can
should
kind of
meet?
work off of this sheet, you think?
Okay.
I mean, well, let's gauge
Okay.
where we're at, and maybe if we have to meet again, we can, but before that,
Because he's gonna get it out to this group,
yeah.
and then once this group gives it its blessing, then we can get it out to the
Yeah.
whole group,
Yeah.
school
Well,
board.
next week's the 4th, I mean,
Yes.
Would it make sense for us to get together
we
one
may have
quick
to.
time
Yeah,
before
we might have
we
to.
go to the board and
Yeah. So
get
maybe the
ourselves
week.
together?
Yeah, I think you're right. So what's today? It's today. So the week of the 8th, some day that. So Jeremy, don't kill yourself. If you get time off something next week, I mean, if we meet the end of the week of the 11th, somewhere in the 10th or 11th range, does that work for people? Or you want to do the following, well, not the following.
Wednesday, July 10th or Thursday, July 11th?
Yeah.
Well, we got the week of the 8th and the week of the 15th.
Yeah, but I'd like to give it to the board at least almost a week prior to the meeting.
Okay.
So 17th would be 6 days. I mean,
I'm good the week of the 8th, whatever
Okay.
you guys want.
Wednesday's good for you, Katie, usually?
Typically they are, but that Wednesday does not work for me. But,
Okay.
so I won't be here, so you guys can be without me. I don't care.
You're still in Aruba, huh?
Yeah.
What about
Oh, that's
Thursday,
right,
the
you're just
11th?
taking off.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
take off, yeah.
The 11th?
You know me,
We can do
I'll be
that.
on a cruise.
Would we just work for you?
Maybe the 11th.
Thursday, the 11th?
Yep.
8:30 a good time to meet in the morning? I know people have said they like mornings better.
I'll give you my feedback. I'll email you my feedback. I think the board my feedback. That won't be here.
I couldn't do the evening.
Why don't you zoom in from the beach?
So Thursday,
So the
July
one thing I like about
7th,
traveling
8:30?
internationally, I don't get the
Thursday,
plan on my
11th,
phone.
8:30. Got it.
So I keep it, I'm off the
Down to
grid.
head off.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I don't pay for that. I'm like,
I'm with you.
I'm sorry. The only time in my life I don't next to my phone.
Cliff needs a
I'm
new
off the
phone
country.
after every cruise because he throws it in the ocean.
Yeah, so whatever you send, Jeremy, I'll just email you everyone my thoughts and for that
I'll
meeting.
send it out before that meeting.
Perfect.
I mean, it's all information we have already, so.
If you can send it out by the 8th, at least to me, so I could just comment, even if it's not completely done, just, because that's the last day I'll be online.
Well, I'll create something, share it with you guys, and then
Okay.
you can look at it whenever you
Perfect.
want.
Thank you.
As it gets updated.
Mhm.
We good?
Yeah, I think so.
Cliff, can you coordinate with John
Yes.
about videotaping? Great.
Not too bad, that's-
So, logistics, let's talk that a minute. So, with this piece, you guys distribute it however you're on Facebook or whatever, and then who has access to our TV channel? I assume Jonathan does? Is that how
Yes,
that works? He does
Jonathan
it?
does.
So on the Facebook, you can tell people, you can also watch it on this channel at this time kind of thing? Whatever that looks like, I don't care. Probably at night.
Yeah, he will, I'll have him put down when the listing is.
Yeah, maybe one in the morning, one at night, I don't know. I mean, how hard is it? Just flipping a button to do that, or is it a lot of work?
He schedules the programming
Yeah,
and it'll, I mean, he'll just put in there what time it is that it's.
But I'm saying is it
It's
easy-
old school TV.
I know. I don't even have cable, I don't even have cable anymore, I got rid of it, but I hear you.
But it's down at the bottom of the analog list, like Channel 6 is not even up in the digital stuff.
I know. Well, town is too, right? Is it
Yeah.
town like 23 or something? I forget. Okay, that works. Maybe put it out there for a couple options, put it out there for a couple days, let it run for twice over a couple days, I don't know, whatever you guys figure it out, what do you think works? I mean,
More people will watch it on YouTube than anything.
I'm sure. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Joe, would you
Wanna go
invite
there?
John?
You wanna meet
You
us?
got time to meet?
Yeah, let's talk, couple things.